Hey guys, EBPMAN here, and here are my impressions of the iPhone X 48 hours later. So the first thing we're going to talk about is going to be form factor and usability, because this is a very different iPhone. The second, we'll talk about screen and navigation. Those of you who have been contemplating getting it, how difficult is it to use, and now is the screen that much better? We'll also talk about performance and battery life compared to its predecessors, namely the 7 and the 8. I don't think it's really fair to go that far back because there's a significant difference in technology as you start going down to 6 and 5, and even some of the older iPhones. And then we'll also talk about camera quality. I have a video that is going to cover comparisons between camera quality between this, the Pixel, the V30, all the flagship phones, the Note as well. And then we'll talk about accessories, because that's the other thing that I think you need to be aware of. So let's get to it. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about form factor. From a form factor perspective, I think that this is a great phone with one small exception. The typing, because the phone is so narrow, and it's much more narrower than I think a lot of the phones that are on the market today, and the screen size being so large, I do experience cramping when typing. So notice how I'm holding it here, and most of us do this type of typing, right? So as you're typing, this gets very uncomfortable as you're doing text messages. Now, if you're not someone who's big into text, well, maybe that won't bother you. But as you start using it for navigating or any kind of text input, I think that this becomes kind of painful over time. So it's too small, I think, for me from a width perspective in relation to the screen itself. Now, that being said, the navigation itself, like the gestures that we talk about, like these things right here, I think that they're well done. I think it takes a little bit for you to get used to them, to understand how they work. But once you start using them, it's pretty much second nature. It becomes very easy, and it's a very welcome change. And I would say that it's almost a natural change when it comes to just overall navigation and also usability with screen navigation and also key entry. Now, there are a couple things that annoy me about the phone that I wish they had. I don't know why Apple made these choices. The first thing that you'll notice up here is that there's no battery percent. I mentioned this in another video. It drives me crazy that in order for me to be able to see what my battery percentage is, I have to do this. Why did they make that change? The other thing that is a little bit annoying from the experience is when I'm going to close an app, the fact that I have to close them out independently makes no sense to me. If anyone who's watching this has figured out how to close them all at once, let me know, because I really like the Android approach where you can just hit close and you close them all. And you will have to close these out, because I've pushed this device and I have noticed it slow down. It hasn't frozen on me yet, but I pushed it really hard just in my testing, and I've had to clear those things out. So as you're running multiple applications, you will have to go into that area, and that's just one area that it just doesn't make any sense to me. Now, from a screen usage, I think there's no argument that Samsung did a fantastic job with the screen. And I know we're talking about Apple, but for those of you who don't know, this is a Samsung screen. And even though it is a Samsung screen, one of the things that you have to be cognizant of is that the color quality, or at least the way it's been adjusted, is not going to meet the experience that Samsung users have when it comes to richness of colors. Now, some call it oversaturation, so the greens are really green, the yellows are really yellow. Those type of things that you're seeing, like when you walk into Best Buy where you see the TVs and the colors just pop, that you're become very used to. Apple has chosen, as some other manufacturers have, to kind of dim it down a little bit, but I would still say that as you even look at the screen, you're probably thinking, you got to be nuts because the screen looks gorgeous. The screen does look great, but you will see as you're using it and as you compare them side by side that the screen color intensity or saturation is lower on the iPhone. Now, the brightness is also different when it comes to this phone. It's dimmer than the other phones that are on the market today. I haven't really experienced any problems with it using it in indoor situations. In direct sunlight, unfortunately here in the Midwest, it's just been rainy and we haven't had a real sunny day, so I haven't been able to see what it's going to look like if I have direct sunlight, and if it's going to be something that will will suffer from a user experience perspective. But screen is fantastic. I love the new design language. I think that this is this kind of design, not too crazy about the notch, but having more of a screen to phone ratio is great. And you're starting to see that with all phones. Yeah, everybody's giving you more screen and then less bezel. So nice job from Apple. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about is performance. How well does this perform? And again, I literally have the 6, a 7, an 8, all, and then also I have this phone here. And while there are things that are faster, it's not something that when you pick up the phone, you're going to go, oh my God, this is fast. Really, what takes you away with this phone is going to be the screen and the overall new design. Because let's face it, this is the first transformation of the iPhone in several iPhone generations. So the speed is not something that is, I would say, incredibly noticeable. Yeah, when you open up your camera app, it seems like it's snappy. Multitasking seems to be snappy, but it's not going to be something that you're going to say, like when you get a brand new PC and you start it up and you go, wow, that's fast. Opening Windows is super fast, because there is a certain amount of throttling and control that Apple has in the actual operating system. So if you're looking to get this phone because of speed, you're not going to see or feel that much. Now, you may feel differently, so let me know below, but I'm not blown away because of how fast Windows open or how fast things come up. I actually feel that in some cases, because of the gestures, things feel slower. And I'm going to give you an example just so you can see what I'm talking about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock the phone. And remember, you had Touch ID experience before. So I'm going to go ahead and unlock it. I'm going to go aside off camera a little bit, and I'm going to knock on it to open it, and you saw that it unlocked. Now, you'd say right now, wow, that was pretty fast. But notice that even though the phone is unlocked, and I'll do it again, let me unlock it, I'm not in my start screen. I have to do one of these jobbers, right? So I have to swipe up to get to this point. So when you think about that experience, is it really faster? So if I go with my iPhone 8 and I use Touch ID and it unlocks, I don't get stopped at that screen. Why did Apple choose to stop in that point? It may be because of uninverted, or when you may open up the phone inadvertently because you just look at it. But that's why I say, from a performance perspective, that's just one example of where I feel it a little bit slower. Now, the next thing and this is coming up a lot on the internet, and you're reading articles all over it, and that's battery life. The screen is larger. The screen, you're going to want to have this screen in bright mode, or the brightest setting. So if you notice, I'm right here. Press and hold this. And this is super bright. This is where mine is right now, and I also have the True Tone on, and I'm having it, adjust things based on the lighting situation I'm in, and I can say that the battery life on this is not as good as my 8 Plus and my 7 Plus. But to be fair, the battery for this phone is smaller. So you have to come to expect that it is going to be smaller. A smaller battery means a shorter battery life. Now, does that mean that I'm running at the end of the day with 5% left? No, not quite. But I have noticed that the battery life on this is not as good as my previous phones, but that's due to two things. One is the screen. Two is going to be the size of the battery, and right now it's a little dangerous if you get batteries that are too big. You see a lot of things that may happen. So I think it was a wise choice to keep the battery where it was. So it's very usable from a performance and also from a battery perspective. This is going to work for, I would say, over 90% of the people. For the really heavy-duty users that are YouTubing, that are streaming, that are listening to music, and just constantly on their phone, you're going to want to have either a charging cord, a battery backup, or something else with you to make sure that you don't lose all your power. Okay, so we're going to talk about camera experience next. So let's go ahead and open it up. Now, the camera experience, if you're coming from a previous generation iPhone, namely an older, I would say 6 or earlier, you're going to feel that this is a great upgrade. 7 and 8s, I think that, well, first of all, if it's an 8, you're not going to really feel much of an upgrade. If you're a 7 user, you'll feel a slight one. There are some really neat features in the software now that you can take advantage of, especially in this portrait mode. So, being able to change your different lightings, also the front-facing camera, being able to get that bokeh effect is great. But if you are coming from another phone environment, or phone camera environment like an Android, either a Note 8, an S8, LG, even an LG series, or namely the Pixel, it's going to be somewhat underwhelming when it comes to the overall quality. And you're going to see in my video, I have some photos as well as some video footage that you can see when we do the comparison between the Pixel and the iPhone 10. We're doing that with the V30, and we're doing that with the Note 8, all compared against this, and you'll see what I'm talking about. One specific experience I'll share with you is I took, with 3 phones, including this one, a night shot, and the iPhone rendered the most pixelated and also red-eye photo, and even though you have a little tool where you can change it, the other cameras, phones, which was the Pixel, the Note 8, as well as the V30, didn't generate red-eye, and seem to be better, and that's just you'll see that once I do my review. So from a camera perspective, good camera experience for iPhone users, definitely. But if you're coming from a different phone, or Android namely, you may be a little underwhelmed. But nice features. And the other thing is, if you want to be able to modify any of the settings, especially if you're coming from an Android ecosystem, you have to go into the settings area. You just can't modify things. So if you think about the V30, has so many different configuration options that you can make. Here's pretty much point and click. You can't really configure. So that means if you want to change something from 4K to 1080p, if you want to change those kind of things, it can't be done from the camera app, and that's just the way Apple does things. All right, so the last thing I wanted to mention about the phone is accessories. I know those of you who are very devout Apple, I would say loyalists, are going to buy everything Apple has, and I'd say that that's crazy. Paying extra money for a charging cable, a wireless charger, and a power brick, that if you buy those 3 things is going to be well over a couple $100, right? So maybe $100, if not $120. It is ludicrous. So I would advise, if you do pick up the iPhone 10, which again is a great phone, I would go with some Amazon products that I'm going to be reviewing. I'm going to have a video that's going to talk about the top accessories you should have for the iPhone. You're going to see that all these accessories I'm going to cover have no Apple brand, but all come in at a very much lesser cost, and are going to satisfy your needs of having fast charging, wireless charging, and also battery backup type solutions. So when it comes to accessories, please don't spend a lot of money. You're already spending enough on the phone. Check out the accessory video that I'll have coming shortly. Second, there's already been videos of how quickly you can crack the screen. So it's really important that you have a good case. Have a case that has drop protection. Have a case that has some type of military spec, because when you drop this phone, and there's been some repairability also, if you crack the back, all the components are really tied from top to bottom. You're going to be spending a lot of money getting your phone replaced. And if you damage it early on, you're probably not only going to spend a lot of money, but you're also, if you have to have it completely replaced, you're going to be waiting to get the phone. So definitely a case. And because of that, I'm also going to have I've had a lot of videos on cases, but there's going to be a video review of the top cases that I would recommend for the iPhone 10, and they're going to be covering a wide range of brands. So I'm at least going to be picking out 2 from each manufacturer, and allowing you to see which ones you should consider and why. Alright guys, so that concludes my review of initial impressions over 48 hours of using the iPhone 10. Again, this is the best iPhone I've tested, and I am one person that doesn't say that. So even though you hear it coming from Apple all the time, that this is the best iPhone ever with every generation, I truly think that this one is the one not to skip, especially if you have an older iPhone. So great experience so far. Really small little quirky things, but I think that it shouldn't be something that would force you to stay away from the iPhone, especially if you're already an iPhone user. So if you have any comments or questions about this video, leave it in the comment area below. If you have any comments about the things I've mentioned, hey, please feel free to share and share your comments with everybody as well. And as always, don't forget to share and subscribe, and thanks for watching.